welcome in to the Spotlight on Kansas City Sports. We're coming at you on Sports Plus TV, on TCL Plus TVs, on True TV Plus, on Carbon TV, and Sports TV. Gerald Bentley joined here by Chris the Playmaker Stimpson from Hot 103 Jamz KPRS. And Chris, because it's in the spirit of times, I thought what better time to do a State of the Union of Kansas City sports, because we're at that time as we talk about the state of our nation's union. Let's talk about the state of Kansas City Sports Union, because we're on a little bit of a disconnect. You know, it's been a great year. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, they finished second in the NFL, but it seems like a funeral is going on in the Kansas City area. And we'll get to it in a little bit after we cover the Chiefs. The KU Jayhawks, man, from the outside looking in, if you didn't look at the record, you would think they had a record like the University of Wisconsin Green Bay with Coach Doug Gottlieb sitting in at 4-24 and not being a lock for the NCAA tournament. Well,
they'll be in.
What is your?
They'll be.
Yeah,
in.
They're going to make it. Well, what's your take? Is the state of the Kansas City Sport Union strong still?
Oh, I've seen a lot of people upset about the season, but I think it's more of just sad, which is crazy. I don't think I've seen a KU fan. I don't think I've seen fans sad. You know, like as if they just gave up. I don't think I've ever seen that. I've seen they've been upset because how a couple losses here and there go, or they don't win the Big 12, but they still feel like, oh, we can still make a run in the tournament. Now it just feels like, at least from what I'm seeing on my timeline, not a lot of people are talking about the KU basketball like normally, and not a lot of hype around it. So, and to hear the real discontent, especially with Zeke Mayo, that happened the other weekend, was pretty bad. Like I've never heard Bill Self have to speak up to to talk back to the fan base, say, hey, this isn't cool. Like I've never seen that before since he's been there in KU, or even Roy when he was there for that matter. So very interesting how the fan base is reacting to this. 1911 is not bad. As me, a K-Stater, 1911, 500 or close to it in the Big 12, I'll take that in. Jerome will take that right now and we'll have to worry about his job.
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's that strong right now for the Jayhawk fan base, but it's just one down year. And 1911 is a down year, then that's really not a down year.
Yeah, you could do a lot worse. Coming from Cleveland State University, where we're thrilled if we make it to the NIT, do a lot worse than what KU's doing. Well, and you could do a lot worse than what the Chiefs were doing, but we're hearing, oh my God, this is horrible. What are we going to do? Andy Reid, speaking this past week at the NFL Combine, just said, hey, we got to get past the Super Bowl.
Yeah, from the Super Bowl. Yeah, it was a bad day to have a bad day, for sure. Like all games, you can learn some things from it. It hurts for a few days, and then you move on quickly. So you get about 3 days into it, and you mope around a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're on to free agency, and you're doing your thing. Players have left the building and taking a little time off, so they curb it back to the next year, and we're fortunate to have enough nucleus of good players that will be joining us and giving us an opportunity to have a productive 25 season and still compete.
I mean, you can't argue with any of that he said. No. They are in a pretty good position. You bring back Trey Smith. It looks like they're going to work out a long-term deal with him. The Chiefs maybe benefited more than any team with the salary cap being about $10 million more than it was expected to be. It looks like that's what brought Trey Smith back into the equation. Do you like Trey Smith coming back, re-upping, and saying, hey, we're going to try again with the best interior line in football?
Yeah, I like that. I like that because you need to shore up as much as you can. Keep the best lineman there and then figure out the other lineman, especially that left tackle. Got to get that figured out. So I definitely like that move. And it seems like guards are more important in today's NFL than past. Like we didn't talk about guards as much as we used to, but it seems like guards are starting to become
paid a lot more.
Yes. Especially to have that good guard center combo to help protect on the inside for Patrick, I think will be very crucial. But again, there's still a lot of work to do on that O line because you don't want to see what happened with Philly. And then if you think about it, the Super Bowls they did lose, Philly and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it was the line.
Patrick got attacked. So I think they learned their lesson before, and I think they'll learn it again. And it's always good to have motivation too, Gerald, because that's one thing too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though they felt motivated because they wanted that three-peat, there's nothing like losing to get you extra motivated to say, all right, now I have to look in the mirror and see what my faults are and get those corrected. And so I think that's what Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs are going to do this offseason.
Yeah, the harsh light of reality that gets shined in a loss tends to clarify.
And a beatdown, not just a close loss, a beatdown from the jump. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was no – it wasn't as close as the final score indicated. Well, and like you said, we're not going to see Joe Thuney at tackle anymore. That's been definitively said.
Yeah.
There's Andy restating that again.
Yeah, Joe's a natural guard center. I mean, that's really what his position was. By the graciousness of his heart, he stepped out and played tackle for us, and what a job he did. So, but I think you move him back inside, and he does it goes back to what he does best. Go ahead.
And then Juwan Taylor was pretty good at right tackle. I mean, he was fine. Are you comfortable with DJ Humphries being the answer at left tackle? Because it kind of seems like that's it. Yeah. A season plus removed from being a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Year 2 back from ACL surgery.
He should be better in that sense.
Maybe the best move.
Yeah, I was going to say he should be better in that sense, recovered from the injury. So now that you had an extra year or two, you should usually come back better and stronger. So that would be the case. But I would still like to see a little bit competition there just to make sure that he's ready. You know what I mean? You don't want to get stuck with that, and then you're trying to find another lineman if he isn't ready or he's not right. So I would like to got to get a good swing tackle in there just to make sure you're good. My personal opinion.
Yeah, a higher draft pick or some other free agent, because I think the time is ran out on Wanya Morris. Kingsley, maybe there's something with Kingsley, but probably more as a guard. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him at a guard, and I think it would be good to get a draft pick to step up and be a good swing offensive lineman. So maybe Kingsley can do that.
Yeah. And you never can rule out a trade because, Brett likes to trade. So you can never rule that out. That could be a possibility. I don't know who's out there, but that could be a possibility too.
Well, who do you want to see them focus on drafting? Because obviously there's going to be a few holes. I mean, Nick Bolton is a free agent. He hasn't come up yet. You could always use some defensive backs.
Yeah.
Running back.
Yeah. I would work on like linebacker area. I think that would be a look. I would again work on offensive line. Even if you got the people that you got, you stick somebody behind them just to learn for a year or two to get ready for whatever. That doesn't hurt either. Running back, I think is going to be a focus. I think more people are going to look at running backs again now with Saquon Barkley having the year that he had. And then like in the room you're looking at right now, not sure what Kareem's status is about to be. Pacheco's coming off the injury. We'll see how he bounces back from that. So I could see that area being addressed as well. Tight end, you should be good. Wide receiver, you should be good. Or you can find a wide receiver. I don't think I have to worry about that. So I would definitely focus on the linebacker area, maybe the line area, both lines. You can never have enough talent on offensive or defensive line. So you can go either way with that. But I would focus on that. That's interesting. He said with Nick Bolton. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
he's been a good player for the team.
Agent.
Yeah,
because you had the number 2 defense in the league with him missing half the season. A season ago, your Super Bowl winning season, where Drew Tranquill and Willie Gay Jr. were the linebackers for the most part, as Nick was down. And you know who's available again in free agency? Willie Gay Jr.
Willie Gay Jr.
Yeah, he's available. He could come back. Let's get one more hit from the combine. Then we have our soccer analyst checking in. He's been breaking down at the beginning of the Sporting Kansas City season. We'll hear from Brett Veach, and then we'll be joined by Steve from the Paint the Wall podcast, breaking down all of the events that have happened so far with Sporting Kansas City. And we can talk a little about Kansas City Current, because I'll be going to their season ticket holder welcome event coming up this Friday at CPKC Stadium. So that'll be good. We can get another team with championship aspirations to talk about. Here's Brett Beach quick.
For the most part, I mean, you look at the draft, and pretty much from every team from 1 down to 32, I mean, they're going to have the top 30, 40, 50 guys. They're all going to be the same. And then as the rounds go on, there'll be a big discrepancy. And so that when you do get to the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, I mean, there'll be guys that we draft in the 5th that other teams don't even have on their board, and vice versa. There'll be guys that we drafted other teams don't have on their board. So I think that the window to capitalize on, hidden talent is bigger. Again, I think all the names are the same the first 2 or 3 rounds, but once you get into the later rounds, it's how much tape work you're digging on and the vision. And this is why I think we do a good job of kind of trimming the fat and really narrowing the guys we like in those late rounds and going over all those names with the coaches. I think we have a pretty good process, but really it's just a matter of the time spent. And I think the additional time that we spent, I think really has paid off the last few years.
I thought that was really interesting too, because Brett Veach is basically coming out and saying what a lot of people think, that after you get past that second round, really, because he said the top 30. So really the first 2 rounds, he's saying it's pretty much just a lottery ticket. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going back 30 years ago when I was doing sports talk radio in Cleveland, and I interviewed Earl Biederman, who at the time was the Cincinnati Bengals director of scouting. The Bengals, historically, one of the cheapest teams in the league. They still are. Ask Joe Burrow.
Yes.
They had 2 scouts. There was Earl Biederman and one other guy. And then after that, he held up the Mel Kiper draft guide and said, yeah, this is the rest of the scouting. We just go through it, pick guys. So Brett Veach is basically saying that still exists. It's just your opinion. Does that make you feel better or worse about the draft?
No, because I think it's something I've always said too. Like, I've always heard you got to hit on your first 2 or 3 picks, like in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And then after that, you're just hoping that something happens. You're hoping that somebody comes through. You might see one thing that you like out of the player and say, all right, we'll work with that and see if we can develop anything else. So, but I mean, some people, when they do focus on those later rounds, it shows and it helps out in the team. Tom Brady, perfect example. Dak Prescott, perfect example. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. I watched him play 4 years at Iowa State and didn't think at all that he was going to be an NFL starting quarterback. And here he is about to get a bag with San Francisco soon. So, the work that you can do in the later rounds could help you eventually. But yeah, I think it's always been a crapshoot.
So Brett Veach talked about how, hey, there's only like 2 rounds and then everything else is up to grabs. And in his defense, I think the Chiefs have done a great job with that, because you take a look at the defensive back, take a look at even D-line with the Turk Wharton guy, Mike Pennell, guys who they've been able to just grab and contribute. That has made a huge key, because if the Chiefs are going to be as successful as Kansas City wants them to be, while paying Patrick Mahomes, while paying Chris Jones, paying Travis Kelce for another year, having the most expensive offensive line in football, some of those other guys, they have to come from low price positions. You can't pay everybody.
And I'm most impressed by the defense. Like, I would not thought that they would be as good as they were these last few years, to the point where I think they carry the Chiefs. Not saying that Patrick Mahomes hasn't done anything to be the great quarterback that he is, or to want to be the greatest quarterback in the game right now, but the defense has made a big difference for the reason why Kansas City is dominated. Because think about those games that Kansas City, not saying struggling, but they had shootouts or they had close games, and it really came down to a defensive play from the Chiefs. So I think that's a great thing, like, for what they did. Spags should get a lot of credit, because I know he's gotten blamed before other teams and was worried about the beginning of his tenure, but the way he stepped up and the way he's handled business, and surprised that no teams are trying to knock on the door to steal him, or he might not be trying to leave, but great defensive coordinator job that he's been doing these last few years there for the Chiefs, especially, like you say, elevating different corners that I didn't know about in life until you started during the season, right? Because the beginning of the season, we're like, okay, what's going to happen outside of McDuffie? And you see the show carried on. Yeah.
And they took L'Jarius Sneed and spun him off for what's going to be a really important pick. Their highest pick in the third round is that pick they got for L'Jarius Sneed. Well, hey, as we wrap up the Chiefs segment, let's hear Brett Veach just get a little bit more into depth. We don't get to hear him talk much.
No.
He did this press conference at the Combine. He talked about the Chiefs' formula for winning. I just think it's interesting because you don't get to hear him much, and you don't get to hear the longer sound bites on TV usually. There he is.
Reason we want to get him not overthinking. You know, he's grown and developed so much where Coach Nagy and I talk about this, where he knows maybe too much at this point, where, I mean, he's seeing things that maybe defenses don't even do now because he's that far advanced. But I think it just comes down to settling his feet and him trusting the protection up front. And that's a continual point of emphasis for us. And, you know, that's why we always make it a priority to invest in the lines. And I think we'll have that approach. It's just, it becomes more difficult, and that's why the league is so great. I mean, the more you win, the harder it's supposed to be. And so when you have a bunch of guys that are at the top of the market for their position, and then you have to pick last or close to last every year, it becomes really challenging. So you just have to kind of think outside the box and put some creative plans together. And we've been able to do that in different areas, different positions, and that's where the focus will be. Just continue to have him play confident behind the pocket, and we'll certainly always look to add weapons. And, you know, the last 2 years we've added 2 great receivers. It's a shame Rasheed got hurt because I think he had a chance to be a top 10 receiver, and then the progress Worthy made last year. I think those guys will be a dynamic combination, and we'll see if we can get Hollywood back. But again, receiver will be a position too that we'll never shy away from.
I think it's just interesting, really elaborating on what we were talking about, how you have to hit on some of those positions because you can't just have high-priced stars and then guys fall apart. And he ended it with another free agent and somebody that came with a lot of expectations, most of them unmet because of the injury, Hollywood Brown. I mean, you can get him cheap again because the knock on him is he's injured a lot, and well, he proved it last year. So maybe you get him back in on a $3 million, try it, prove it contract. And then if you have a healthy Hollywood, healthy Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce and Noah Gray, and then we'll get Jared Wiley back, who was a highly regarded rookie tight end. We've lost him with that ACL injury early in the season. You got him back in the mix. That should be a really dynamic receiving group. So
that's
crazy. There's a lot to look out for.
Keep forgetting about Rashee Rice because he did get hurt so early. Yeah. So yeah, he's coming back. Don't know what the legal part of it is going to be as far as if the suspension is coming or not. But still, it's like an added piece after you didn't get anything really much last year. So yeah, that could be scary. But like you say, Patrick's got to trust the offensive line. You got to give him that trust. And I don't think Patrick's never thrown him under the bus. So that's one thing I haven't seen. I haven't seen him talk bad about the offensive line or say we need this or they need to be better. So I think that's something they'll all work on together this offseason to make sure they
takes it on that. Yeah. Takes it on himself all the time. I mean, he talked about I have to be better. I got to work harder. And Travis Kelce talked about that too, that I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to be ready to go. A little throwback to Taylor Swift trying to reach the old Travis. The old Travis is dead. He's ready to go now.
He might be motivated with his ex on the field doing all the antics after the Phillies won or the Eagles won.
Yeah. Let's try again. Now let's talk about a team that has some motivation. They started the season off 0-4. Started it off in horrible conditions, a negative 17-degree weather day at Children's Mercy Stadium against Lionel Messi Suarez in Inter Miami. Then drop a match to Austin, drop a match to San Jose. Lose that second round of the CONCACAF against Inter Miami, lose the aggregate score. There's been a lot of change. They talk about it being a rebuilding year. Let's hear what our friend Steve from the Paint the Wall podcast has to say about him. Here we go. Let's try it again. Welcome in.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, and we got you.
There we go.
Now, I know you've been studying, you've been poring over the Do you feel good with Sporting Kansas City as they embark on this rebuilding effort? The floor is yours.
I think that we have pretty close to the right 11. I think the problem that we've seen so far, and primarily in the San Jose game, really, is that most of these guys have only been on the team for 2 weeks, let alone played in a game. They've only played with each other twice. So, it takes a lot of time to gel and mesh as a squad. So, but I think there were drastic improvements from the first game to the second game. I mean, the San Jose game, we possessed the ball like 111% of the time. I don't know. I don't remember the statistics.
Yeah, it was 70+% in the second half.
Yeah, we just couldn't figure out how to finish, how to get shots off, how to capitalize on that possession. And I think that shows that they're learning how to play together and how to pass the ball around and work as a squad. That finishing aspect is, well, it is just that. It's the finishing aspect. It's the last part of it, and that takes some time. So, that doesn't just happen immediately. So, I mean, most of these guys don't even speak English, so you have that whole barrier on top of it as well. Like, it's not just something that happens right away. So, I've been kind of impressed with the team so far, trying to ignore the results. I know after last season, it's hard to ignore the results because this is how it started last year. So, as long as we don't lose 10 in a row, then losing 2 in a row is not the end of the world.
2 years in a row, they had 10-game losing streaks. 2 years ago, they made it deep into the playoffs of MLS, and I think that may have actually given them false hope because that created that atmosphere and gave them the reasoning to say, hey, let's just run it back again. We're good. And if Logan and Debe doesn't blow out his knee, man, we're going to go through. We beat Houston and we're in. We're into the finals. I mean, we were that close. We were a knee injury away.
Yeah.
I think what last year proved is, well, no, you weren't that close.
Yeah.
Even though they were able to kind of circle the wagons and make a good run in the U.S. Open Cup, it just wasn't enough. That's not what you expect. You expect it's a world-class organization, one of the best stadiums in the league. You expect them to be in the upper half of the league. And really, this is the first time in years that they've really made a concerted effort to say, okay, hey, we're changing over the team. We weren't good enough. We're going to get better. And I really like that. And I like the mood from not only Peter, the players, and the new sporting director, Mike Burns. They really seem to be committed to putting this together and doing it the right way. And here, to use a soccer analogy, they're going to build it up from the back and be ready to attack. It's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the thing that I see a lot on Twitter, that a lot of fans are upset. I don't know why, really, but it just feels like they expected us to sign 13 new players from the end of last season, which I'll remind you was only like 3 months ago. It was not that long ago. Our off season is not very long. They wanted 13 new people, a new coach, a new hot dog vendor. They wanted all kinds of new stuff. And, we went out and signed like 6 new people. I guess one was a homegrown, which, to be fair, in my opinion, is the biggest impact player that we have right now. Biggest new player in Jacob Bartlett.
Yeah.
But we signed a bunch of new players, and those players alone, like, it takes time for them, like I was saying, it takes time for them to mesh. If we had a brand new, all new starting 11, it'd be even worse right now.
Sure.
So,
because you don't have anybody who knows what they're doing. Well, let me ask you, Jacob Bartlett, because he's in the midfield. So a lot of times, if you're a casual fan, you focus in on the number 9. And if there's any greater degree of focus, it's on that number 10, that attacking mid. What does Jacob Bartlett bring to the team? Why do you say he's the most important addition? Because I think most people would knee-jerk wise go to Deja.
Yeah. I think he's the most important because he's brought a stability in a very important position in kind of that pivot CDM role that he's playing in. He's brought a lot of stability, which that a lot of people, I guess, that don't really know soccer or follow soccer, that's the pivot point of the midfield. That's the stable pole of a midfield. It's just not the flashy part of the midfield. So people don't really pay attention to it. But, he just kind of came in, won the starting job in off season, which is impressive because he had some pretty good competition that he was going up against. We gave him a start and he went out there and ran with it, and he's been playing really well enough that Peter's like, well, I'm not going to give his spot up. Like, keep going, keep going for it. He's young. That's another perk, that he's young and he's already doing this. It's got shades of Jake Davis. Jake did it when he was young too, and just ran with it and said, I'm not giving you my spot back. So I don't know. I just think it's important. It's important to have that CDM. It's not the flashy guy that's going to score all the goals, but he's there. He's always there. He's always in position. He's there to kind of help transition from attack to defense, and keep, which in our formation and the way we play is important because we play out of the back, like you said, and we push, we attack from our defensive line and from the wings. So having that position there is very important.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jake Davis. Peters even said he's playing where he's playing right now because of need. Where do you want to see Jake Davis lining up? And is Andrew Brody, who was the last acquisition from Real Salt Lake, is he the answer to get Jake out of the right back position and get him up into the midfield?
So that's two questions that you asked there to me, and I think they're kind of separate answers. To me, the answer, where do I want Jake playing? On the field. I don't care where. I don't care where. Jake needs to be on the field. He's that kind of player that he needs to be playing. He will make an impact no matter where he plays, I think. I probably would lean towards, honestly, right now, I would lean towards right back because I don't think we have anybody that's proven that can take that position. Which transitions into your next question. Is Brody that guy? Very likely could be. He hasn't played with us enough for me to really know. I feel like he got cut by RSL for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, and I don't know that we've seen that reason yet. I would worry that eventually we will see that reason. I hope not.
Yeah.
I'm hoping maybe he just got cut for other reasons and it really wasn't a talent thing, or maybe just a change in environment can help him with, maybe he was just feeling stagnant where he was at. So we'll see, but I just think Jake needs to be on the field. Wherever he's at, he's going to make an impact, and a crucial impact. So, but yeah, I guess ideally we could move him up to midfield, and have another right back that can come in and play. But
Steve, you like Jake. I've liked what Manu Garcia's done since he showed up. I think he's been great for the team as well next to him. What are your thoughts on him, what you've seen in these few games?
Manu's been incredible, honestly. He would be a close second for most impactful signing, I think. He's had a lot of creativity and a lot of impact on the game. I definitely want to see him in midfield. I think that's kind of the other reason why I don't mind Jake staying at right back. Because my I guess ideal midfield right now does not include Jake. Mine would be Bartlett, Manu, and Tommy. I think Tommy's looked really flat coming on the wing. He's fast and he's everywhere and he's all over every play, but he's just not creating from the wing. So I kind of wish they would move him back to midfield. And then unfortunately, I guess that leaves us with Shallowy going back out on the left, who also has not really done anything yet this season or last season for that matter. But I don't know, I guess that would kind of be my ideal situation right now. But yeah, I've been impressed with Manu. His creativity is definitely, we've only really seen it in flashes so far, but it's kind of consistent flashes, if that's even a thing.
The new Gotti, right? Gotti Kinda kind of
definitely
exactly
replacement for that.
Yeah, exactly. With better knees, I hope.
Yeah. Well, he's younger. And keep in mind too, like you said, I mean, Dejan, Manu, Shoppy actually got here the latest.
Oh man, he was great.
Got here and he looked great in that game.
Yeah.
He looks explosive because, I mean, Chris, you and I sat through a lot of the games last year and we just said, heck, besides Eric Tomey, nobody looks dangerous out here. And that would stay until they brought Afrifa in, and then at least there was some movement. But there was a lot of games. It was Eric Tomey and everybody else was just kind of standing around. So it's good to see that creativity and the aggressiveness. And even though they've only been here, 10, 12 days, you already see more dynamic coming out of Manu, Shoppy, and Dejan than you did the offensive players combined last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Competition is great this year. A lot of places, competition is great. When you got a guy who's on the bench, when you got a free food, everybody is like, why is he playing? You see why now with Shoppy, how he looked, especially in the San Jose game. He was running all over the place on the flank. Yeah. So I love what they're doing on there in the attack. So yeah, and Dejan, I think is going to be great once they figure, because the link-up play in the first half against San Jose was great. They just couldn't, like you said, Steve said, they couldn't break down that low block in the second half once they went down to 10 men. So, but like you said, it's only been a few games. They'll gel, but yeah, we interesting. Like you say, 10 games in, we'll know probably what they look like more into the season.
A lot better idea,
as time progresses. Yeah.
DC coming up, a road game this week. Then they're back home. Steve, just one more question on Sporting, and then we'll seg over to the Current. The Current's rising and getting ready to come back to Kansas City. Their kickoff luncheon is coming up tomorrow. Hopefully, the blizzard supposedly coming in doesn't delay that much. But looking at the offensive end, with a Shoppy, with a Dejan, with a Manu, should their presence help elevate a Daniel Shalhoub, who you had mentioned disappointing in the last couple of years, and maybe we see some more explosivity coming out of Eric Tomey and maybe a Jake Davis charging up from the side too?
Should it impact that? Yes, it should. Will it? I think it will also answer our, which Shalhoub are we going to get? Is Shalhoub still here to be part of this team, or is he washed up and should have been cut? That'll kind of answer that question. If he's still here and still needs to be, part of this team for a reason, then it will elevate his play for sure. It'll have no choice but to. You can't be the only person on the pitch not doing anything, because I think even Peter, who doesn't sub all that much, will pull you off for somebody else. So I would say that it will. I anticipate it will elevate his game a little bit too.
And since you said, hey, he may be washed up, I mean, he is only 28. I know soccer, football, it's becoming a younger and younger men's game over time.
Yeah.
It feels like he's played forever, though, Gerald.
Exceptions. Yeah, it does, doesn't he?
Yes, it feels like he's been here forever. It's still babyface.
Yeah.
28 years old.
That's crazy.
And we didn't even mention, because I know you were thinking that when we said who was there to play right back on the team, the closer, Kyrie Shelton.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you ready to see? Is it Kyrie time? I talked to him at the media day at luncheon. We had an interview we aired last week, and man, I was saying, okay, here he comes. He's healthy. Let's go. And haven't seen him on the pitch yet.
No.
Shocked. Honestly, shocked we have not seen him. I'm even more surprised that we saw Brody before we saw Kyrie, because Kyrie was playing so much at the end of last year and improving every single week. And now he's healthy after a solid offseason. I really thought we were going to see him and Jake, but we haven't seen him at right back, which tells me he's back as a backup striker, and that terrifies me more than anything. So, or a backup wing or strike. That's much worse. I'd much rather him play right back.
Okay. Well, he is a great interview. He's easily the best interview on the team.
Very thoughtful.
He's such a good guy.
Super guy to talk to. Very well spoken. Breaks down the team, and man, you can tell the guy bleeds Sporting blue. Well, let's go to the Current. The Current wrapped up their preseason portion. They had essentially a controlled scrimmage against the Chicago. Don't call them the Red Star, the Chicago Star.
Oh,
and they are getting ready to get at it. They're going to have a open house, a season ticket welcome party coming up Friday night at CPKC Stadium. The team, with the additions they've made, I mean, this is really kind of championship or bust, isn't it? I mean, they're loaded up, and they've improved the defense even more than they did in the second half of last year.
Yeah, I'd say it kind of has to be championship or bust, especially after, I guess, what I would say is a disappointing ending to last season.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, they just couldn't get past Orlando, and I think the injuries hurt a little bit because they did have a few. They were banged up a little bit going into that game, and obviously not having Bia for the bulk of the season hurt. but should be full set, ready to go. And you have new goalkeepers. How much of a difference do you think Lorena being in at goal is going to make for the team? Is this going to really be a turnaround for them?
I think so. She's an excellent goalkeeper, so I'm excited to see her out there and see what she does. I will say, as somebody who played goalkeeper my entire life, it's weird to see how many different goalkeepers we've had just in the last 2 years. It's crazy. And as a sporting fan, we had one goalkeeper for years.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, with one kind of, with Pulse Camp, I guess, kind of sprinkled in a little bit. But now I guess it's fitting that now that our beloved Tim Mealy is gone, we'll also move to a new keeper again with the current. But no, I think Lorraine is a great goalkeeper, and she's going to bring she's going to basically be a brick wall back there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the top 5 keepers in the world on the women's side. She is the Brazilian national team player at goal. And if there was a weakness on the team, it was probably at goal on set pieces. And yeah, she should almost completely change that. And then that just allows them to be even more committed to that super aggressive driving the ball forward style of play that they showed last year. Is it possible that they can score more and be a more effective offensive team? Because they did have to, I don't want to make too many football analogies, but just like the Chiefs changed their style of offense during the season and they went to an extremely short passing game, the Current really went to a little bit more defensive focused style of play in the second half of the season. In part because that's what the competition was giving them. They were dropping back and playing them to counter, but the Current were playing a little bit safer towards the end of the season. With Lorena out there, do you think we see more of that reckless abandon and try to get to the 5 or 6 goals like they did in the first half, but not winning games 6-4?
Yes, I do. I think there'll be a little bit more confidence in our back line and our defense, so it'll free up our attack a little bit to push a little harder, which I think was a big problem in the second half. They just didn't trust the defense, so they felt like they had to play back and not push up as hard and as fast. So I think it'll be more like the beginning of the season last year, where we trusted our defense and we can push up more and score more goals. So,
well, and you do have your fullbacks are back. That were midseason acquisitions, Alana Cook and Kayla Sharples.
Yep.
And that's got to be a difference maker because now they're comfortable. They've had a full season under the belt. And just to talk about experience, how much does it help Michelle Cooper and Claire Hutton getting in there playing for the U.S. national team and now coming back and getting a week or two to be ready to go before the regular season starts?
Well, they'll have a little bit of competition under their belt too by playing for the U.S. women's national team, so they'll kind of have that little spark that maybe everybody else doesn't. I know they do the scrimmages, but it's not quite the same. So I think that'll give them a little bit more of a spark, and they'll be a little bit even more match fit ready. But I anticipate everybody on the team will be match ready for the opener.
Yeah, all healthy. Chris, what do you think? I mean, that's got to be huge. I mean, I really enjoyed just hearing from them, talking about how this was a dream come true. And Claire saying, I have posters up in my room of some of the people that I'm going to be playing with. I mean, that really resonated too, because it lets you know just how young this team is too.
Yes.
Outside of Lowe and Dabinia, they're an incredibly young team to be this high up in the league.
And how much confidence you think they have for that to lead into the season and kick off your season and kick off your confidence, knowing that, hey, with Michelle, I scored for the United States women's national team. So she already should feel confident heading into the season, and Claire getting time. So I think that's a great look, not only for them, but just for the current period, because now they got the experience of playing with some of the big time players, that's on the squad as well. So maybe they learned some things while they're away and coming back and bring that back to the current.
National TV time.
Yes, yeah. I get we got to get that window, but come on, man. 11 to 12. Come on, we can do at least 1 or 2, right?
I would like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the noon East time.
Yeah,
and to be fair, the NWSL has a better TV contract than Major League Baseball. We'll get back. We got a little bit of time before the baseball season starts, but we can dig into that again. How brutal their TV contract is. But let's wrap it up with the sport that is going to be the main story coming here in Kansas City over the next couple of weeks is the Big 12 tournament. The 16-team Big 12 brings the Big 12 tournament to the T-Mobile Center downtown. KU is going to be a major contributor to it, but the story that's coming out this week is KU in free fall. They're on the worst run of the Bill Self era, the worst Big 12 season already, even if they win out of the Bill Self era, and one of the ugliest displays by the fandom. Guy right behind me, Zeke Mayo, a Lawrence native, transferred in from South Dakota State, and getting a lot of hateful responses on social media. It really makes you wonder why the players even engage in social media, but it tells you something about what's going on and the expectations and the pressure that comes with playing at KU. What do you guys think about this KU season? Is it time to throw the panic, hit the panic button, break the glass, or is it just, hey, we just didn't click on all cylinders and we need another year to kind of get acclimated to this new system? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, for my end, I just think they ran into a buzzsaw, man. The Big 12 is one of the best basketball conferences, if not the best basketball conference in the nation. And I mentioned that before the season started. Like, you can't take Arizona State, even though they haven't had a good season, but Arizona's had a decent season. I didn't expect BYU to be as good as they were, and they're going to get better next season. Colorado, even though they had a bad season, they competed. Even I remember the game they played against KU, they competed against them. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just, I think it's like with my team with K-State. I just think the recruiting this year, as far as the players coming in, it might look good on paper. It might look good what they did with the other schools, but bringing them into that environment maybe just didn't work for everyone. And you got to think about it too. There's no real standout on this team this year, but just my personal opinion for what I've seen. Like, if Hunter Dickinson is your best player on the team, then that tells you everything you need to know, my personal opinion. So I think they expected maybe some of the role players. I think they expected KJ. I think they expected Dejuan to step up more. And I think they are who they were. And the other players didn't step up. So I think that's what led to the season that they have. So I'm sure Bill, though, will do a way better recruiting job coming up for this next season to bring in better players to gel in. But I think it's just that year, man. I think a lot of teams are going through that. You see what's going on in North Carolina. You see what's going on, like you say, Arizona State with Bob Hurley. Like, he's been a good coach, and this year's been a down year. He's having adjusted to Big 12. Gonzaga's had a tough year from what I've seen. So there's been teams that usually are having down seasons just for their standards. But like I told you earlier, Gerald, I'm a K-Stater. I'll take 19-11 any day of the week. I'll take that right now and run with it and be happy. So, but that's a different expectation we have out at Aggieville compared to what's going on in the Lawrence.
Yeah, and Steve, we talked about it with Sporting. They're trying to incorporate new players in, and we're saying, hey, let's see what happens after 10 matches. Well, college basketball, they are reworking their rosters now every year, and they're bringing guys in from different systems. I mean, we just now saw against Houston last night, DJ Coit getting out there and being an offensive focus. Well, the guy scored 21 points a game last year for Mac School. He was at Northern Illinois. He legitimately scored over 20 points a game in a fairly high-level NCAA Division I conference, but you ask most casual KU fans, they didn't even know who the guy was. They're just saying, hey, who's the little guy out there? I mean, I think it's got to be super hard for a coach because no matter what sport you have, you got to get these guys put together. In soccer a lot, you talk about knitting or weaving the ball between the lines. Well, that's true in basketball too, and they've just seemed out of sync all year. And I think that's really, really hard to rebuild the whole roster every season. It's got to be a problem that we're seeing with all the coaches.
Yeah, I would agree, and I will say that I think there's very few things in the world better than when KU has a bad season. There's few things in the world better than watching them get stomped into the ground. So I can't wait for K-State or Cincy to beat them in the first round of the Big 12, and I can't wait. I'm super excited for it.
Oh, don't get my hopes up, Steve. Don't do that to me. Don't get my hopes up.
I think they're kind of mentally checked out. I mean, it seems to be, because this is a team, like you said, Chris. I mean, depending on the analytics you look at, talking with our basketball handicapper analyst on the channel, Alex Campbell, who I do a college basketball show with each week. Depending on the stats you look at, Hunter Dickinson is rated as high as the number 4 player in the country in terms of efficiency. I'm saying those stats lie, because he is just a guy. Now, he's good at his role, but he's not a dominant player. And it may just be as simple as the guy who was going to be the dominant player, the guy who's going to play the Ochai Agbaji role, the Andrew Wiggins role, to be the, hey, get the ball to him, let him make a basket. He'll just create it. Well, he's sitting in the G League right now, getting ready to get called up to an NBA team. That's Johnny Furphy, your freshman from Australia last year, who left at 18 years old to go to the NBA. And then they had Grady Dick leave to go to the NBA, where he's contributing for the Raptors. Nothing great, but how good would a guy who's contributing in the NBA be in his third year now? And instead you're re-racking. And no offense to Zeke Mayo, because, man, the guy's trying hard. And I think fans need to pump the brakes a bit and step back with the hammering on him, because he's being manned up. They're boxing one in him. The shot that everybody was freaking out that he missed and caused the loss against Texas Tech, well, he was bodied up. I mean, that's not an easy shot, and it's because nobody else can shoot. It's him or nobody. Coit can shoot, but he can't play defense. He's 5'10". So he's getting worked. So it's just a challenge. But to put it in perspective, KU, if you look at the BPI index on ESPN, they are still ranked number 11 in the country, which is crazy. Whereas Missouri, who's having an amazing bounce back year after going 0 for the SEC last year, they're 21-8. Missouri is ranked, tells you how much different the preseason schedule was. Missouri, in the toughest conference in the country, is ranked 27 on that same index. So that's definitely interesting. They're right there. Well, we'll wrap it up on college basketball. We got the Big 12 tournament coming up real soon, so we'll be able to get back into that and get into all the March Madness. But for now, let's go ahead and got our sister channel, Wrestling Spotlight. We got our championship belt. We'll get our champions of the week.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lily La Pescadita from Northland Pro Wrestling, your Northland Pro Wrestling Women's Champ. And you can see me on Wrestling Spotlight.
This week on Wrestling Spotlight, we're joined by the Thunderdome stylist herself, Heidi Howitzer, talking about coming up to Fountain City Pro Wrestling. That has their season premiere coming up at the Ball Event Center in Olathe on March 14th. Steve, who's your champion of the week?
You know what? I'm going to stick with wrestling, which I'm sure you saw coming.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to John Cena because his little performance at that Elimination Chamber was awesome. Him going heel right at the end of his career, him and Rock going heel right at the end. I didn't see that coming. Of course, I enjoy wrestling, but I don't follow wrestling near as much as I would like. So maybe I should have seen it coming. I don't know, but that was fantastic. John Cena gets my championship.
Oh,
okay,
man.
I like that.
Yeah, man. What a heel turn. Him and Travis Scott out here beating up my man Cody, man.
Yeah.
Travis Scott getting it in there too, yeah.
Is it true that he hurt Cody? Because I read that today. They was trying to say that he literally hurt Cody and messed up his ear and all this stuff after slapping him Saturday night.
That is the report. That's what's being said. Yeah.
Hey, all right, Travis, go ahead, get yours. You gonna get your lick back though, WrestleMania. I'm gonna tell you that right now, Travis. Get ready.
Coming up soon. I booked an earlier flight this week, so we're getting ready.
He's ready.
Some live
Okay.
reports from Wrestling Spotlight from WrestleMania.
My champion
ahead,
of the
Chris.
week. I got the shirt on. I don't know if y'all can see it, but shout out to my man Jimmy Johnson retiring from Fox Sports. You know, if anybody knows me, big grew up Cowboys fan, and so my Super Bowl coach. And but besides that, bias aside, man, he's been great on Fox Sports on Fox NFL. He's the reason why him and Howie and Terry and James and Kurt, because James first and then Kurt Menifee, but definitely the reason why I used to watch Fox NFL Sunday before I got deep into fantasy football. But definitely respect Jimmy Johnson for what he's done for not only just NFL, but just for football, period, and keeping that hair clean, man. So I just wanted to salute him, man. Appreciate what he's done for the game.
Amazing career and a young 81. I guess that's
living up. Man, I'm telling you, if I could look like that, if I make it to 81, could look like that, man, I'll be a blessed man.
Well, I'm gonna go with baseball. Like I said, we got a little bit of time before we preview the Royals, but announcing his retirement just yesterday, Royals legend, third baseman, the Moose, Mike Moustakas. He's going to be signing a one-day contract, retiring as a Royal. Definitely a Royals Hall of Famer. One of the key parts to that World Series run. So Mike Moustakas, you get a champion of the week. And then Steve, since you brought the WWE up, I have to give my champion of the week because she's back.
Oh, yeah.
Jade Cargill.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
Auditioning for the role of Storm and beating down Naomi and maybe setting up a potential run-in with the EST of the WWE, Bianca Belair, coming up at WrestleMania, because Bianca wasn't looking too comfortable in the Elimination Chamber.
Oh no, the look on her face, the look on her face
Naomi
with Jade,
against the chamber.
Let's go. Yeah, the look on her face with Jade attack Naomi. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a big setup. That is a big setup right there. Love it.
So tune in. You can check us out on Weekly Champions on Wrestling Spotlight on all these same services. And join us each week here on Sports Plus TV as we break down the sports of Kansas City. Chris, where can people catch up with you and stay up to date on the R&B and music scene in Kansas City as well?
Oh, yeah. Make sure you check us out. Hopping 03 Jams, KPRS.com is the website. Hopping 03 Jams is the app. And I'm encouraging anybody, if you're in the Kansas City area, if you can find it, check out on Kansas City PBS. We got the Diamond Jubilee, which is a documentary about the Carter Broadcast Group since we're celebrating 75 years. So it's a great watch. You can learn more about our station. Of course, work for the oldest Black-owned radio station in the country. So I got to give a shout out to Carter Broadcast Group. If you get a chance, check that out on KCPT in the Kansas City area. And I believe they uploaded it to YouTube now. So anybody can watch it wherever you at. So make sure you check that out if you get a chance. And of course, my podcast, my brother, Stimpson Ain't Easy, wherever you get your good podcasts, come through and check us out. We just rank stuff and talk crazy.
Awesome. And Steve, new episodes of Paint the Wall podcast coming up?
Yes, hopefully. We've had a bit of a delay for the Paint the Wall start. We've had some changes here at the podcast, but I will be recording, hopefully this week, our first episode and getting the season kicked off. So you can find us. We'll still be on YouTube, Paint the Wall podcast, also on Twitter, and then here where you see Wrestling Spotlight and where you're watching this right now, we'll be broadcasting there too. So same old place.
And thanks for coming in and giving us some credibility in talking soccer, because my soccer broadcasting dates back to a total of 2 years of doing play-by-play for college. So I appreciate the insight to the soccer. And by all means, we're off and running here on Sports Plus TV. Stay tuned for more sports right here, and we'll see you back here to break down what's going on in Kansas City.